Hello and welcome to my corner of the timeline. My name is Lucas Creighton, and I'm hopefully going to help you reconstruct your worldview after a collapse because you learned about the Jeffrey Epstein files. I get this feeling that there's a lot of people out there who weren't really ready to hear about everything in those emails. I certainly wasn't ready, and I've known about this stuff for years. That's why they say disclosure really isn't like you can't handle disclosure because most people are genuinely just going to check out when it comes to actually learning what's been going on here. It's very dark. You won't like it. I wouldn't recommend it. So I'm going to try and help build you guys a way out. What I think is happening is that if the situation were hopeless, the propaganda wouldn't be necessary, right? I believe humans, they're essentially using our own co creative ability to create negative timelines. So we have to create positive timelines in order to counteract their negative ones. Well, actually, I think there's more or less only one timeline left, but the sooner I tell you guys about it, the sooner we all get out of here collectively. So, welcome to the Great Awakening. I hope you're having fun. I'm certainly not because I'm not a big fan of, um, monopoly money or any of the other various evil things that have been happening here. But the good news is that, I see these things being revealed as a revelation of truth that no longer can be hidden in the darkness by these people because there have been people who have been trying to tell us this, namely people like Princess Diana, Michael Jackson, Chester Bennington. I think Avicii was one of them, Anthony Bourdain. Like, the list is very long, and they killed all of them. So, what it took was a military coup and maritime law in order for people to actually hear about this stuff, which is part of the 17 movement, right? And if you don't believe me, go ahead and read Jeffrey Epstein's own emails, and you can find one where maritime law is coming and the owning of human souls is over. Now, so they believe they own human souls. Guess what? They do if they have access to extraterrestrial craft, MK Ultra, and they think they own your soul. It's not good. It's very not good. I've been tracking something called the Secret Space Program, but the nice thing about that is that seems to be the bottom of the rabbit hole. What you learn is that practically everything here is about um, the trafficking of humans. Practically everything. DNA, like energy, souls, human body containers, like it's all about that. Right. So the nice thing about that is that everyone's got one and you have what everyone else wants, which is a human body and a human soul. Or at least I hope. So we're gonna use that to ascend. I think that's what's in the consciousness these days, and we need to figure out our way to ascend out of this awful situation and to rebuild our worldviews into a scaffolding in which we can climb out of the underworld. Right. So if you can't see the ladder, you can't climb out of it. Right. So I'm here to tell you about the ladder. And the ladder is this: there's a bigger fish out there. There's a much bigger fish out there than Jeffrey and his pals, and it is busy exposing and eating Jeffrey and his pals. They told us they were going to be saving Israel for last, and that's what they're doing. So that's where we're at. So I need to tell you guys about the future of the timeline so that you're prepared when it does happen that we don't all crash out. Who am I? My name is Lucas Creighton. I've been stuck in these Black Book projects since I was a kid. I've been a child soldier. I've been a super soldier. None of it was very fun at all. But there's a number of us who have been coming down here in order to get this outcome, right? We want an end to this system of human slavery, and the only people who are fighting for it, as far as I'm aware, are a group called the Alliance. Listen to the testimonies of people like Johann Fritz, Daryl James, and Tony Rodriguez. They will tell you about the SSP. Well, I'll call it the Schwarzschild Project from now on. Same acronym, different name. It's really the Secret Space Program, but we're going to call it the Schwarzschild Project to try and avoid the censors. But I have to at least say it once in order so that you guys get the point. So there's a secret. It's up there, and it's quite the project. The obscure up there project. Maybe we'll call it that. But the long and short of it is that they've been using techniques like MK Ultra, trauma-based mind control, and literal mind wiping. They figured it out post 2001, from what I've heard, to keep all this stuff under wraps for years, and also time traveling and de-aging. Stuff's wild. Listen to all the stuff as far as 20 backs go. Like, I'm telling you guys, this is the bottom of the rabbit hole because it's an intergalactic conspiracy of human trafficking, right? It's not just terrestrial. The problem is even worse. And part of the problem is that there's a lot of species out there that really like the True Strand human platform because it's basically human cattle, and they love the human emotions because they don't have access to theirs, and so they love to create fear and eat fear to create chrome. And you should know what that is by now. It's the white rabbit, and it's the bottom of the rabbit hole. But they love to do that stuff because it makes us extra tasty to them. So then the only people who are willing to stand up for that kind of stuff ultimately have to be humans, because who else is going to solve our problem of being food for the more predatory races of the galaxy, like the Lizzies? The Lizzies and the Orion group pretty much own this place. You know, they would call, like, those who don't know call them Satan and others, you know. But for the most part, they look like Tucker is kind of right, where aliens are demons, but only because our demonology is reminiscent of those factions. You hear me? Right? So, like, aliens are demons, but also not demons. There's a subsection of aliens that do appear to be demons because our demonology is inspired by them because they haunt the dimension, the fourth dimension above us, and they rule these evil bloodlines. And there are quite a few of us who are very much opposed to that. So anyway, the galactic conspiracy you will find through the testimonies of people like Johann Fritz and Daryl James. Johann Fritz will tell you that he was in a program called Not Waffen. It literally translates to night weapon, but it more so means like night fleet. Um, and those guys surf the black doing all sorts of heinous stuff. Ultimately, they had a schism, from what I understand, in their timeline. In his original timeline, I'm not sure how original it still is, given all the timeline editing that's going on here. And there's been a lot of timeline operations, so much so that there's practically only one timeline left, as far as I understand. So, like, all things considered, you're fine. You just need to know more about this, because so that we can co-create that outcome from this side. And the faster we co-create that outcome from this side, the better and faster we can get off this rock, because I don't want to live here anymore. Right? But that's not to say that I would propose you to off yourself. That's precisely why I'm here, is to help you build a frame in which you don't have to off yourself, because there is hope. Right? There is a bigger fish. You don't have to be afraid. Be not afraid. Like, I never say any of the stuff to make you guys afraid. All right? But you also have to recognize that there will be consequences to their actions in the long run. But that's not necessarily our judgment to take. I mean, a civil war will be unnecessarily bloody. The only other way out is the 1991 collapse of the Soviet Union. Right. So I think our best way is to co-create our way out of this place and do it non-violently through non-violent resistance, at least on this side of the timeline. Okay. That's the best I can do for you. But I do need you all to know about the people who are trying to get you out of here, right? The 17 movement is the lowest level of this operation, right? That's the 3D end of this operation, right? And it goes up to so many other levels, way outside of time and space. You know, they even have the ability to edit and control timelines to the point where they can wrestle the cabal into the timeline that they want, because they're using their same tactics. Right? Those of us who have been used on the other side of this timeline have not been good people, because we've been having to do things that no man or woman should have to do. But we were sleeper agents put way underground in order to get the outcome that we needed, which is the freedom of the human race. So there is a group of people out there that are trying to get us free, and I do believe that there's a cluster of them around the Trump organization, but I personally have not seen the real Trump since about June. I think they almost got him in that helicopter crash in June, and we haven't seen him since then. They might have actually gotten it, although consciousness doesn't exactly work the way you guys think it is. It's probably more like an altered carbon, but less technology, more just ability to suck the soul in and out of bodies, right? So you can have sleeves and put your soul in a sleeve, but you don't really need the tech. You just need sufficiently advanced tech to understand how to push a soul into certain biology, right? So even if they did kill him, like, who knows? Who cares? I'm sure he had backups. It's really not that big a deal. The organization he's a part of is much bigger than just him. He's simply a figurehead, right? Like most presidents are, right? Presidents won't have the highest level clearance, guys. Like that's really what this is. Like they are of the deep state, and the deep state is blacker and blacker projects until you get all the way to the bottom of just like it's pure black evil down there. And people like me and my friends have been going into those places and destroying them and alerting the authorities, the proper authorities, to find them and take them down. Places like Pine Gap, Antarctica, the Lunar Operations Command, right? Places like that. We've been fighting on all over the solar system trying to get this stuff done, because our organizations are done with the human slavery. Source has declared that this stuff will be no more. No more, no less, not on Earth. And it's going to continue in other places. And from what I understand, there might be a crusade amongst the stars to make sure that every single human slave is freed. But that's neither here nor there right now. That will come for later. What you need to know is that there are organizations out there like the Alliance. I will be your Alliance liaison on this little adventure. This is my little corner of the timeline. If you found me, you've come more or less to the bottom of the rabbit hole. Kind of the last level to understanding this place seems to be the Sacred Space Program. But that in and of itself is also its own kind of trap, where if you get stuck in there, you just get mired in the muck and the depression of the trauma that is created by those programs. And looking into it only helps you so much. Ultimately, what we really need to do is get clear pilled and just recognize that we can't learn enough to learn our ways out of here. We need to ascend in the body. All right, so what I've been learning about ascension is not really it's not, don't think of it as the rapture. No, we have to ascend within our bodies, right? Because as I said before, you have something that everyone in the universe wants, which is a human body. Apparently they're very powerful. However, the way we've been operating over the last who knows how many thousands of years is in the two-strand format, right? We only have two strands of DNA active. Apparently, we've got somewhere from 12 to 144,000 strands of DNA that can be active. Who knows what the real number is? What Jesus said was, "Those who come after me will do greater works than even these." And I'm here to tell you that now is the time for that. Right? We're in the end of days where the old men shall dream dreams, the young men shall prophesy, and ironically, I'm a little bit of both. So here we are. And like now's the time. Like you've all sensed it. This is Armageddon. This is the Kali Yuga. But also, if that's going to be their playbook, if they're going to tell you that this is Armageddon, you got to read their playbook, which is Revelation. So I would point you to Revelation 2:9 and Revelation 3:9, and you'll figure out why they're saving Israel for last. I will not quote those verses on the stream by myself because let you can figure it out for yourself. But from what I understand, underneath the Holy Land is a very significant gate to the underworld. And that is probably the place where this final battle will be occurring. I bear no ill will for the people who live there. I wish them all the best of luck. I hate their government just like I hate my own. Right? Love the people, hate the government. That is our job right now. Is we love the people, we wish them well. We hope that they do not get harmed in such a conflict. However, I hate most of the governments of the world. There are some that do better than others. It would appear that Putin has a better handle on what the American people need than our own politicians, and that is very sad. And I wouldn't be surprised if we were to find out that there were large amounts of human trafficking operations and money laundering going on in Ukraine and other kinds of harvesting, like a popular Google browser, like that one. Yeah. But as far as it goes, you need to know that in addition to, there are also elements of solar warning. So some of the testimonies that you need to be aware of are Johann Fritz, Daryl James, and Tony Roberts, right? Those are the big threes of this kind of like worldview of that there are other people out there that who are going to save us. Right, so that is all well and good. Daryl James has one of the most fascinating testimonies that I think everyone should listen to. Whether or not he's telling the truth, he feels like he's someone who tells the truth, right? And this stuff is for people with ears to hear and eyes to see, right? It's not for your average individual. This is for the people who got so far down the rabbit hole that you almost got black. But I'm here to tell you that there's an intergalactic conspiracy theory going on, and that there's a bigger fish out there than Jeffrey and his friends. Okay, and they're actively destroying these things, right? And you've seen some of the results, but they just told you that there were SpaceX crashes. Remember that huge fireball last summer, or was that 2 summers ago? I think it was last summer, but it was a huge fireball, tons of space debris, and they're just like, oh yeah, just SpaceX got destroyed, failed launch, scuttled, and if you were trying to cover up all sorts of, I don't know, space debris and battles, what would you tell the people? Oh, yeah, SpaceX. We're just trying to get it right. Right. And like, and if you don't believe me, like, just watch it on the night. You see these craft everywhere. And of course, they're going to tell you that it's SpaceX. But until you see the video in which Elon's rocket has a mouse climbing on it, I don't want to hear about more Starlink satellites. I don't believe you. I cannot verify that it's a Starlink satellite. Of course, it might be, but why are they always glowing no matter where they appear in the sky? I think that's more indicative of the propulsion systems that have been described on these ET crafts. Okay, so they're flying everywhere and they're picking people up. They're running ops. I've seen them. They've called me up to the roof to watch them go by. I got to see a whole procession of 20 to 30 Pleiadian craft. It was absolutely gorgeous, and they literally legit were like, "Go up to the roof," and I was like, fine. And so I finally get up there, and they're like, look up. And I look up, and it's like a whole line headed towards, the nearest city. Um, so, like, these things are happening, and they're real. And if you don't believe me, you can also read the Jeffrey Epstein emails for yourself. And one of the emails, what you're looking for is maritime law. In one, he says, maritime law is coming. The era for owning human souls is over. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make sure that this never, ever, ever happens again. So we had to go down to the deepest depths of this hell. That's why the imagery of hell divers is so ubiquitous, is because we needed to get to the very bottom so that we could pull everything up from the roots. We had to pull every single little bit of evil out of every single corner that we could find. Okay? So that's why this all had to be so miserable. Now that we've gotten to the Great Awakening portion of the show, it's my job to wake up as many of you as quickly as possible so that when the rest of disclosure comes, that you're not flailing like you were during the Jeffrey Epstein files. All right? So there's an incredible amount of evil in this world, but there's a bigger and more positive force out there. God would never put you down here without an ability to escape. We just need to figure out how to create the scaffolding to climb out of hell, right? And if you don't believe that there's a way out, you're not going to find it. Like, that's the point, right? Like, if you don't believe that you can get out, you will not. All right. So I'm trying to help you build a worldview in which, yes, there are people out there that are trying to save us. Okay. That's the important part, is that we need to build a worldview in which that's possible. And how that is possible is via the secret space program, because that's where they put all of our smartest people. If you were in the gifted and talented program, the talented and gifted program, the TAG program, or even the gifted and talented education, there's a chance you might have been put in one of these projects. I'd recommend you go do some hypnosis, or maybe even email me and I'll do it for free, because I will do as much of this stuff for free, because I don't want people to have to pay to get healed here, and that's kind of how it is. But it's just tough here. But anyways, I hope you're enjoying your Monopoly money, your Babylonian money magic, because I certainly am not. But other people you can look up are Max Spears and, don't look up Louis Elizondo. He's a plant. He doesn't know a thing. There's people like David Grush who have partial truths, but they don't tell you the whole truth, right? So, like, they are still trying to create a narrative of fear where most of the craft you see in the sky are actually designed by humans and run by humans in these secret space programs. The way they do it is that apparently the way human life becomes canon, and it somehow becomes like canon after 20 years. So they go to like 19 and a half, and then they like put you back. They time travel you that time back. they de-age you and they put you back. In the Halo story, they say it's a clone, right? I don't exactly know how this consciousness manipulation works, right? Maybe they're stealing our souls away to another timeline and just leaving us with husks and shells. That's certainly something I've discovered, is that if you turn off things like your heart or your solar plexus, um, they're allowed to then take those energies and use them for alters against you and in these projects. So what we need to do on this side is wake up as much as we possibly can and heal as much as we can. Right? That's our job down here. And healing your body, the best way to do it is, as far as I know, is get in the sun. For me, I love the beach because of the high salt content of the ocean. That also helps your psychic abilities. I wouldn't recommend pursuing your psychic abilities all that tightly, because in order to get through them down here, most likely you're going to have to get through the trauma. But I mean, you're going to have to fix that trauma anyways, so you are going to get your psychic gifts back in the long run. It's going to be tough. It's not going to be easy. I've been on the first wave of this stuff, and it has not been fun. Hopefully, though, for you, things have probably gotten better since about August of 2024. That's when I started to wake up, and it seems to me that they've been using my soul to run a significant portion of the timeline. However, as I reclaim more and more power, this stuff gets better and better, and so does our ability to co-create. Okay, but overall, what's kind of happened to you all is that you just discovered that you've been in the cave your whole life. Okay, Plato's allegory of the cave. This is also present in the Red Rising series. Okay, you all just discovered, oh, most of my reality is fake, and it's been designed like Jeffrey and his buddies, and they're all pure evil. Okay, so we need to figure out how to create something along the lines of a worldview that will allow us to get out of it. Right. And you need to gird yourself and realize that this, like, just because we could not conceptualize the amount of evil that was going on in this place does not mean it didn't happen. Right. Just because we don't have the ability to imagine how truly evil these people are does not mean it didn't happen. Right. These are the people who ran the Holocaust, the Holodomor. They've started every war pretty much practically ever. They're just a bunch of agitprop people. They have mystery school dropouts who were so upset by their treatment in the true mystery schools that they thought their only solution was to infiltrate and destroy all of them, hoard all the knowledge for themselves, and keep us all behind the veil so that we stay stupid. They are a little bit of the guardrails. Like, they are kind of the lower bound of where this place is allowed to exist. So the good thing about them is that you get to bounce off of them. But now that we're revealing who they actually are and what they actually do, the bounds become a little bit different, and the rules of the game become a little bit different, right? So our job right now is to simply survive. Okay, survive the things that they're telling us. Like, take in the information as much as you can handle. Ultimately, like, if you can avoid it and stay out of it and not get focused on it, like me, or perseverate on it, do that. Right? But I'm sure there's a certain segment of the population who you just can't get off. But I'm here to tell you it's okay. There are people coming. And I think our best way out of here is essentially a 1991 revolution of the Soviet Union, which would be nonviolent. Okay, there's a lot more of us than there are of them. It's like 8.01 billion people versus 13 bloodline families. Right? Like, that's it. Like, that's all we're facing. We're just facing a dying cabal who's breathing its last breath. Like, I'm pretty sure this last Iran war thing is its last extinction burst. Okay, but the next part comes the revelation of the method. Right. So I'm trying to prepare you for those revelations so that when they hit, that you're not as scared. If you are seeing me and I look familiar, you may have worked with me out the programs. If you've literally never seen my face before and you're like, damn, why does it seem like I know that guy? It's probably because you do. From what I understand, I'm in some of the leadership out there. And so if you've heard my voice before, seen my face before, but you don't know where, when, or why, and I seem somehow familiar for you, it's probably because we interacted out there or in a past life. But I'm here to tell you it's time to wake up. Wakey, wakey, eggs and bacon. Right? So, like, let's get moving towards creating a world in which these people no longer exist. I'm here to tell you that the 17 organization was entirely legit. That's the lowest level of this stuff. They say in the 17 drops that everything above 40,000 feet is classified, even to the president, right? This guy, most of the time they have no clue, right? Trump knows, but that's because he's being rolled into the alliance, right? It is kind of their figurehead fall guy for this stuff. Ultimately, something went wrong with like the blackmail tapes they had, or maybe he's a scapegoat. I'm not sure. Or maybe there's multiple Trumps running. I haven't seen the real one since June, like I said. Ultimately, it doesn't matter. The organization he's a part of means a lot more than the actual physical man ever did. Right. And that's really what it is the spirit of the people, of the non resistance, right? And the reason why this is happening to America is because, well, first off, they wanted to locust their way to China, but China's a little too xenophobic for them to let that happen, which is good for us. And they needed a country like America that was irresponsible enough, but that could take these hits and keep rising and keep standing, because it is the revolutionary nature of our unconquerable spirit that will ultimately win us through this kind of an event, right? Like, we need to be able to withstand the fact that we were party to a system like this, forgive ourselves, and keep moving forward. That's why someone like Jesus exists. If he can forgive you, and if he can forgive the world that killed him, you can forgive these people enough to pick yourself, well, you can forgive yourself enough that you participated in the system to pick yourself up, keep going, and recognize that there are bigger and badder things out there, and that those people will get their comeuppance and their justice. Okay? Like, this will get better. I promise you. Be not afraid. For now, what you need to do is, first off, get safe amongst yourself. Tell the truth, right? Don't lie. Try to be as righteous as you can in your own life, right? Like, that's what I discovered is I was like, oh, I'm lying in my own life. And then as I stopped doing that, more and more of these revelations came out in the public, right? So they use our energy in a way that we do not understand, and they use it for co-creation, right? So we need to co-create ourselves a way out of here, okay? And there is a way, right? So listen to the people I mentioned, right? Be not afraid. Recognize that this is your reality, this is the truth, and that's okay, all right? There's only one timeline out of here, and it's the golden one. The only question is, how fast can we get you guys to wake up to get there, right? And so they're hoping that we can do this soft, and if we don't do this soft, we're going to do this hard, and that's going to be war crimes tribunals and lots of executions, and we might get there anyway. I'm just hoping that we get there without traumatizing anyone too bad, or at least that's what they want. I personally wouldn't mind it at this point, because I've got plenty of that stuff, and maybe the rest of the population needs a little bit of that in order for them to wake up, because that's the only way people seem to learn here, which is really sad, really, really sad. And the thing about trauma is, the more trauma you get, the more psychic abilities you have the ability to unlock from past lives and other places, right? So Brandon Sanderson knows something you don't, right? In Mistborn, how does Kelsier become? Isn't it Mistborn? Um, and it's via trauma, the death of his wife through no fault of her own. Vin's the same way, right? So Kelsier understands that there is a reason, or sorry, Brandon Sanderson understands that there's a reason why these people have powers, and it's because of that stuff, right? And that's the true way. And it's something along the lines of, like, it puts cracks in your auric field that allows God, your higher self, and the angelic realms to come into your soul and fill in the cracks with what was left over. And I've suffered a lot on this side of the timeline and on the other side of the timeline, because they're mirrors of each other. And it's something that you do in order to create the emotional resilience that's needed to teach the human collective how to put themselves together over and over again when this kind of stuff happens, right? So it's time to start picking up the pieces and get our stuff together. Join a commune, buy local, right? Like, have fun with your friends. Honestly, that can be some of the most revolutionary acts of independence, is leaning on your friends in a time like this, at a time such as this, for all this evil, right? Get creative, right? We have to create beauty on our way out of here. We have to leave trails of light and hope for those who come after, because if we do not, like, they might get lost down there. And ultimately, I heard that I don't think the 3D Earth is going to continue. Those who don't make the 3D to 5D transition are going to be shuttled off to another location. I don't think it's going to be Earth anymore. I think they're going to, I think Gaia has ended those contracts. Is there anything else I need to tell you? There's another portion of the story that was mentioned. I mentioned Daryl James earlier, and the thing that we need to connect to him is that a part of the alliance is the breakaway German faction that Johann Fritz talks about, right? So the Germans made it out after World War II. They were more fighting a war for time than they were for fighting to actually end the war. I believe they made it to Antarctica, and then ultimately the moon base, and then they made it even further to places like Ceres and many solar systems beyond this one. All right, so there's a portion of their factions that broke away to form the alliance. The other faction of the alliance is what the remnants of Solar Warden. What is Solar Warden? Daryl James talks about Solar Warden. In the 1980s, Ronald Reagan started the Star Wars project. From what we understand, that project was an absolute boondoggle. However, what we know now is that it was a cover for Solar Warden. Solar Warden is a partnership between here and the Pleiades and the people in the Pleiades, where we supply the natural resources and the manpower, and they supply their technology for the ships, but they have the ability to commandeer them when they are needed and to reallocate assets in a more destructive manner. We also teach them how to operate like a 3D Earth human because they need the experience in order to deal with the 4D Lizzies. Right, so I've also been in contact with the Pleiadians as well as with my alliance contacts, and this is my best understanding of the picture so far. Right. So there are people coming. They are working on clearing out all the dumps. That's what the Maduro thing was about. Apparently, there's a tunnel system between America and Venezuela, and they're working on clearing that out. Okay. They're working on fleshing out all the allies. They're also using Iran to alleviate the continental United States of their job of the world police. Ultimately, we're going to be looking at uh, de-arming the United States, at least from that perspective. They are going to rearm in an SSP perspective, and that might have its own interesting consequences. But from a surface perspective, they are allowing themselves to be de-armed by Iran. I do believe there was some sort of operation that happened over there because it did seem like a rising of the divine feminine at the time, which might have spooked these guys enough to start that. I'm not exactly sure who is what over there in that conflict. I know one thing's for certain is that I am not going to die for Israel because we were saving Israel for last. As far as I understand, there's a very evil. That's one of the biggest gates to the underworld down there. So there's a lot of evil down there that needs to be cleared out, and it would seem that that we're working on it. And like I said before, I cry for the people who have to live there, but I hate their government, like I hate most governments here on Earth. But there's a reason for that. Like there are reasons for everything. Another testimony I mentioned was Tony Rodriguez. He's definitely one you should listen to. He'll tell you about Serious Colony Cavalier. He's a really nice testimony because he's not necessarily a super soldier. He's much more average experience than some of the other people who have started to testify about what's happened to them out there. Okay, so yeah, I've been in these projects forever, and I will claim to be a super soldier. I've only probably got maybe 1 to 5% of my memories back, and from what I've been told of the other side, I'm literally not allowed to have them back because of how traumatizing they are, and because of the operational security that risk that they pose. Right, so I often get dreams filled with overlays, and only remember the worst nightmares. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. The long and short of it is that I'm a cracked out psychic who's done enough healing to redeem enough of his gifts to be able to remote you to get some of this information to you, the people. And we're going to help you rebuild your worldview in order to climb out of the underworld, and destroy this place on its way out. This is the mission as far as we understand it. Keep on keeping on. Stay alive, stay safe. Hail Libertas. All right.